a lot of people are talking about this interview that Anthony Joshua did yesterday with Ade, who's obviously had a channel here on YouTube for several years where he talks boxing. He now works for Sky Sports, and he did an interview with AJ. He asked him several questions. He asked him about the fact that Tyson Fury predicted that if AJ fights Wilder, he'll get knocked out in 2 rounds. And AJ responded by saying, well, Fury predicted that Charles Martin would beat me. He also predicted that Joseph Parker would beat me. And to add on to what AJ said, Fury also predicted that Ruiz would beat AJ in the rematch. So Fury doesn't really have a great track record when it comes to predicting Anthony Joshua fights historically. And AJ did point that out. He also pointed out the fact that Tyson Fury claimed to have been made an offer by Conor McGregor to be trained in MMA. And Conor McGregor came out and said, I've never spoken to Tyson Fury before in my entire life. So AJ pointed all these things out. But he also said that there are, or he hinted at, new negotiations between his team and Wilder's team. Actually, he didn't say his team and Wilder's team. Perhaps he was having a sit down with his team and planning an offer to make to Deontay Wilder to lure him into an undisputed fight. So he basically said that he wants to put a deal in place, and the deal will be structured in such a way that as long as both guys win their next fights, they will fight the undisputed fight, the fight after that, immediately afterwards. So if Wilder beats Fury, undisputed fight against AJ after. If AJ beats whoever he fights next, Usyk or Pulev, the undisputed fight with Wilder after. Now, it's interesting that he says this because, of course, Deontay Wilder, if he beats Fury, he might be obligated or forced into an immediate rematch because there is a clause in that particular contract as far as we're led to believe. And AJ has also picked Fury to win the fight. So if he's picked Fury to win, and Fury also, even if he loses, might trigger an immediate rematch, why is he making Wilder the offer? Why is he not making Fury the offer? That is a question that we have to ask. Again, especially since he's picking Fury to win. Well, if you really believe that, you should be making Fury the offer. So a bit curious to me that he appears to be targeting Wilder rather than Fury. Perhaps he doesn't really think Fury's going to win. Perhaps it's, him trying to be a bit patriotic or whatever. The same way that Wilder was picking Ruiz to beat AJ in the rematch. Maybe AJ's giving Wilder a bit of his own medicine and sticking with his countrymen this time. But it is interesting that he says they're looking to make Deontay Wilder this offer and get him to break contract potentially with Fury and take the undisputed fight instead. I mean, a contract like that might be able to work if Tyson Fury was written into the contract. So let's say Wilder wins the rematch, but it's relatively close or whatever. AJ comes in and says, okay, I want to fight Wilder now for the undisputed. Fury might say, I'll allow it to happen as long as I get a guaranteed shot at the winner. But even that's complicated because you've got to factor in Dylan White, who is the WBC interim champion. So, I don't know. It's nice to hear that he's still pursuing the Wilder fight, at least apparently, ostensibly. But I doubt whether much will come of this, particularly because negotiations between the two camps have been so difficult in the past. Wilder has turned down multiple offers, and the offer they gave out to Joshua didn't seem very reasonable. We had a 24-hour time limit on it. I mean, I've never heard of anything like that before. Your opening offer having a 24-hour time limit on it. Insane. So given the difficulties between the two camps in the past and the hostility there, the fact that Wilder turned down over $100 million and a guaranteed fight with AJ, it doesn't really give you much hope that a Wilder-AJ fight can happen anytime in the near future, especially under the current circumstances. The only thing which might give you a bit of confidence that there's some prospect to the fight happening is the fact that AJ got knocked out last year. Perhaps that will give Wilder and his team more confidence in taking the fight sooner rather than later. I was talking to some people in my Facebook boxing group earlier, and one of them, shout out to Corey, he was saying that Deontay Wilder should have taken the Anthony Joshua fight when he had the chance. Not just because of financial reasons, but because AJ is improving at a rapid rate. Now, some people have disputed this. Some people say AJ isn't improving. He hasn't improved since the Klitschko fight. In fact, some people say he's deteriorated since the Klitschko fight. I mean, I don't know what they're looking at. I think that AJ has been fighting better opposition since the Klitschko fight than he was fighting before the Klitschko fight. So obviously, it's going to get tougher. Because before the Klitschko fight, he was fighting Eric Molina, Charles Martin, Dominic Brazil. After the Klitschko fight, he was facing people like Takam, Povetkin, Parker. These are better fighters. So obviously, common sense, it's going to be more difficult for him to beat guys. He's going to have to face more adversity. And from what I saw in that Ruiz rematch, this is an improving fighter. Yeah, I think he might have got a little bit stale, but that Ruiz loss gave him a wake-up call and made him re-immerse himself back into the world of boxing, surround himself with more boxing people. And we've seen historically, if you followed Anthony Joshua's career, amateur and pro, this is a man who learns extremely quickly. He was competing in the World Amateur Championships against fighters who had hundreds of amateur fights. And he only had, I think, 20-odd fights at the time. He made it all the way to the final and only lost by a point by the home favorite in front of their president. Most fighters who are so inexperienced would never even get to that stage of the World Championships against such experienced fighters and beat the good men that AJ beat in that tournament. Facts. Most guys wouldn't be able to do that. Then, of course, as a pro, I mean, he was moved extremely quickly into world title contention in his, 16th fight. Then he was fighting Klitschko in his 18th or 19th fight at Wembley. I mean, the pressure, incredible. It's not just who he's fighting. It's the fact he's dealing with all the pressure as well. Because no heavyweight in the world is under the kind of pressure AJ's under. The weight of expectation of a whole nation on his shoulders. And off the back of the Ruiz loss, there was all the haters. The people praying for his downfall. The people writing him off, saying he was no good. Holding it together psychologically under all that pressure and all that hate and all that expectation, it takes a very, very strong mind. Wilder's never had to deal with anything like that. Fury's never had to deal with anything like that yet. They've had to deal with pressure in their own way, of course, but they've never been through that level of adversity or pressure so far in their professional careers, neither of them. So it's yet to be seen how they would cope in that situation where you're fighting somebody who's just knocked you out in an immediate rematch. You know, we'll see if that ever happens to them, if they can deal with it as well as AJ did. Because most fighters crumble, you know. So I learned something about AJ that night against Ruiz. I always knew he had the technical ability to beat Ruiz. It's just whether he would be able to overcome the demons from the first fight in such a short space of time. But he did. Ticked yet another box. Learns quickly. Is able to overcome adversity, psychological adversity, in between fights and during fights. This is a guy who you need to get him while he's still green. This is something Malik Scott actually said. When Malik Scott was in Dylan White's corner when AJ beat Dylan White, Malik Scott said, all the top heavyweights, you need to get AJ now while he's still green. Because a few years down the line, nobody's going to be able to touch him. Now, I'm not sure if nobody's going to be able to touch him, but I do think AJ's improving. There was some question. I even questioned it in videos, a year or two ago. I asked the question, has AJ already peaked? Is he on the way down? I mean, it's often impossible to know until a fighter's career is over. Then you look back in retrospect and say, okay, he actually peaked around these years and around this fight. But you can sometimes tell during a fighter's career if he's deteriorating. And from what I saw in that Ruiz rematch, AJ is clearly not deteriorating. This is clearly a guy who now is going to improve. And if you've got any common sense at all, you'll look at his history, amateur and pro, and know that this is a guy who learns quick and improves quick. So, yeah, maybe Wilder will regret not taking the AJ fight when he could, not just from a financial point of view, but because AJ's several years younger than Wilder. He's improving. How much more can Wilder improve? How much longer will it be before Wilder actually starts to deteriorate? Maybe Wilder will be slightly over the hill by the time him and AJ fight. Maybe he'll end up losing and, regretting the fact that he didn't take AJ when he was still green. So, we'll see anyway whether anything comes of this supposed new negotiations or whatever. I obviously want to see the Undisputed fight sooner rather than later. I don't want Deontay Wilder to give AJ any extra time and start refusing $100 million offers and all this kind of stuff. I want him to take the fight sooner rather than later. If he can defer the Tyson Fury rubber match and do what AJ suggested, then please do. Give us the fight we all want to see. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening, I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.